there comes a time in everybody's life when you got to make the old standby. You know what I'm saying? What we're going to be talking about here is peanut butter and jelly. Not the peanut butter, but just the jelly and a little bit of jam right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
All right, everybody, we are a listener-supported show, so check us out at Patreon. You get extra episodes a month. If you pay for a year in advance, you get 10% off and other benefits. We have Teespring for T-shirts and other fun stuff, and we also have a Amazon list, and in that Amazon list is all the products that we use. It'll give us a portion of the profits for Amazon, and there's a whole section on food preserving, so these are all products that we've used. So check that out and help support the show, so we can keep making gardening content for you. Okay. Ding. Jams and jellies.
This is the only time that I have not regretted coming into an episode hungry, because you know what I'm going to make once we get done here.
The old standby?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Hey, look, nothing better than peanut butter and jelly with just some plain potato chips. Damn. Good God almighty. Let's do this.
I ain't said all of that, but, you know.
All right, so let's read the excerpt from our friends at the National Center for Home Food Preservation for Jam and Jelly. Preservation with the use of honey or sugar was well known to the earliest cultures. Fruits kept in honey were commonplace. In ancient Greece, I think it's quince, was mixed with honey, dried somewhat, and packed tightly into jars. And the Romans improved on the method by cooking the quince or quince in honey, producing a solid texture. The same fervor of trading with India and the Orient that brought pickled foods to Europe brought sugarcane. And in northern climates, in northern climates that do not have enough sunlight to successfully dry fruits, housewives learn to make preserves heating with fruit and sugar. So I think right now, when this episode is coming out, is the perfect time for this episode.
It makes you warm and it's like warm and cuddly.
Yeah.
You know. One of the first things that I preserve that's in the jam jelly family, and it's a stretch. It was kind of this peach kind of like preserve. I know there are technical definitions of what makes a jelly versus a jam, and I'm talking about preserves, but it was described as very good on things like turkey sandwiches. I actually used it with oatmeal. And there's just something that's nostalgic about kind of your jams and your jellies. I bought, obviously, the peaches. I don't have any fruit trees. But that's actually one of the things I've been meaning to come back around to in our episodes, where we're obviously hoping that you'll preserve using some of these methods with the things you've grown. But that's not the only way that, you can preserve.
Yeah.
Buying some of these things, especially we're probably in the Midwest, right at the very end of like our farmers markets, so I'm saying collect some of those fruits and let's get down.
For sure. I mean, you don't have to grow it. You can go and buy, like, the reason why I say right now is if you go to the grocery store and the fruit is on sale, that's the peak season. Buy a bunch of it and start practicing, because do you know the difference between jelly and jam?
It'll sound familiar once you read it to me. Go ahead.
So jelly is basically the strained fruit juices. Jam is mashed fruit made into what we can. So I've actually never made jelly. I've only made jam. I've never strained anything. I'm just not interested in it. And I guess the reason why is because I feel like you're removing all of that fiber that comes with the fruit. So we've never, and it's just an extra step. It's not necessary. So that's the difference. So in my space, we do jams. We don't do jelly. You?
Yeah, I actually prefer jelly. Store bought. If I'm buying it from the store, I prefer jelly. Just it spreads more easily.
Yeah.
So something like the old standby peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I can get down with some toast and some jam. So I was looking it up, and it's definitely is what I thought. Like fruit is inside of jam, where jelly is like just the it's a consistent substance all the way through.
Yeah.
But then I was like, what about preserves? So it looks like it's fruit comes in the form of chunks in a gel or syrup, which is a whole different ball game. So we're not going to get into that.
No, we're not going to get into that. Makes you a little
nervous.
But it's important to know that when you're making these, you also need to have pectin. Mm-hmm. And you can buy pectin at the any grocery store. They usually have them. Typically, they're going to be hidden. I will say that, but you have to get the pectin, and you can get. I believe the pink box is for making like sugar-free, like not with actual sugar, but using another sweetener. And then the other colored box, so I guess you can tell what we usually make, is for making it with sugar. And we actually do both. We've teetered on both. We actually made sugar-free, I'm going to call it what it is now, jam a couple years ago. And we got the pectin measurement wrong, and it came out, you could pour it onto your sandwich. You have to make sure you're getting the recipe right using the correct amount of pectin. But go ahead.
One of the big, and I've not made, I've been meaning to make kind of like a spicy, like a jalapeno pepper jelly is what I'm pretty sure the recipe is, but just never gotten around to it. I'm pretty sure I have some pectin in my kind of preserving basket. But one of the big things, I believe, one of the big benefits if you are doing this is you get to control how much sugar is in whatever you're making, right? Like I'm sure the recipe calls for a certain thing, but you guys have told me that you guys have made like low sugar jellies or whatever, right?
Yeah, we typically now we make low sugar jellies instead of the sugar free jams. Excuse me, jams. Let me get right. And we make pepper jam. We make typically what we make in our house every year is we make pepper jam, strawberry jam, blueberry jam, and ground cherry jam. We'll make that every year. And now moving forward, if everything goes right, we're going to start making peach jam as well. So we do a lot of that, and that way we can enjoy it throughout the year. I mean, dude, I have a young child. He eats peanut butter and jelly. He'd eat it every day if he could.
As he should. Yeah, as he should. Oh, you're going to make peanut butter with the peanuts you're growing this year? Oh, that's probably not fair. I'm sorry.
We'll find out soon now, won't we?
So
go ahead.
So if you didn't make your own jams, how often do you think you'd consume in your household jams? Like you basically need to buy it from the store.
We probably wouldn't consume that much. We definitely consume a lot more, but we don't feel bad about it because one, it's lower sugar, and two, it's readily available now. And we do the method where we actually go out to a local farm and we pick we'll go every spring. We go and we pick all of the strawberries as a strawberry you pick farm. And so we'll pick that. And then at the same farm, they also have blueberries, but they don't have them where you can pick them, but you can buy them directly from the farm. So we'll buy those too in bulk. And when we go in there, they're like, all right, here's your one container. And I'm like, lady, I need like 10 containers. It's like, what do you do? I'm like, well, this is how we make all of our jams for the year. And we move in that direction. So
yeah, it's on my longer list because this is where the truth comes in. Your peach tree this year produced enough for you to make, I imagine, a good amount of jam if you wanted to make jam out of those peaches, right?
Yeah, I didn't have time because I was learning how to, when they were ripe and all that stuff. And so I was, I picked them, I let them sit on the counter, and then they started going quick. So I ended up just canning them as half, whole peaches. But moving forward, now that we know, we are going to incorporate that into it. and we're going to make jams. We're also going to make like peach pie fillings and stuff like that, and then canned peaches. But I'm really big in my food preservation to where I try to can it. You know, for instance, we want to make peach pie. We can can the peach and then just make the filling afterwards. So, you know, we don't really know what direction we want to go in. But, you know, it was the first year and it was a good harvest. I think we got like, I can't remember what the total was. It's like 50 peaches or something off this little tree.
The reason why I bring it up is a lot of us are not growing enough of the thing to really make a big or even a small batch preserving of jams or jellies, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't make it. So what I was saying, it's on my longer list, is to go to some of those kind of pick your own, you know, fruit, where you can get like bushels and bushels or however they serve it. I don't know. I don't know what you're putting it in when you're picking it. But it gives you an opportunity to still control kind of what you're consuming, you know, and obviously you do a little bit of research, make sure it's a place that you feel like you trust, that's growing. And again, you still get the benefit of filling your pantry with things that were locally grown, right? You know, and then basically cared for and preserved in your home. So I think that's a huge win. And it allows you to, for those of us that have smaller spaces, it allows you to still benefit from whatever that jam or jelly is, or any of these ways that we're preserving. You know, the first time that I preserved peaches, I did like a bourbon peach sauce. And so it's meant more to be like topped with ice cream, you know, put on top of some cake or something like that. But I did like some pears as well, like just the half pears. And the reason why I like canning things in that way is you can decide once you open the can what you're going to do with it. Yeah. You know, so, that reminds me.
But you can also do different. You can also use jams in multiple ways too. I mean, we use them obviously for peanut butter and jelly, for breakfast foods, stuff like that. But we use it for baking. We use, you know, put it in yogurt. So we'll buy like a plain yogurt and then add our own jams to it, stuff like that. So there's multiple ways to use it. And I think when you have more of it around, you learn how to use more of it because, you know, getting the quantity that you need is tough. And I'm going to give you a website right now. It's called pickyourown.org. Maybe .com. I'm pretty sure it's .org. And it'll give you, there's on this website, it tells you how to can just about everything. And then it also tells you where in your area there's farms that you can do this. So I've mentioned in the previous episodes that we do, we used to go apple picking. So we would make apple jam. We would make applesauce, apple butter, all that stuff. And that was really our first dive into jam because we would get, you know, 3-4 bushels of apples and that's what we would cook with, or, you know, use. So it's a big difference moving and, you know, going and picking your own versus trying to grow. Now, if you're blessed enough to have a fruit tree in your yard that really produces, then, I mean, it's just, the world is your oyster at that time. Yeah. But I think jams are really important because it gives you something sweet out of your garden. You're taking something that's already sweet, and you're making it a little bit sweeter, and you can use it for multiple ways. And if you ever get to making your own ice cream, you can add jam into it. Ooh, it's good stuff. It's really hard saying jam and not jelly, too.
Weird. At my family home years and years ago, maybe it was a summer holiday, I think, and a relative brought over an ice cream maker. And it might as well have been like Walt Disney World, you know, on our front porch as, you know, you watch this thing go. I've not thought about that in the longest time. The only thing we were missing clearly was some jam.
Yeah. And this is when we make jam, I actually get my son involved. He's 8 years old. And what you do is you get your fruits and then you basically cook them down. And then you have to mash them. So I get my son involved. I'm like, here, mash it. And then you mash it, and then you mix it with the pectin. And then the trick is once you start mixing, once it gets to a boil and the pectin goes in, you stir it constantly the whole time. And we do it, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's for 1 minute. you start constantly while dripping the pectin and the sugar in and stuff like that. And then once it does that, you jar it and then you start to can it. And, you know, it's a good, and this is another reason why water bathing will never go away in our family. No matter what, we will always water bath something because this is a water bathing recipe. I'm sure you can pressure can it, but there's really no reason to because the fruit has the acidity and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a great treat, you know, for these. And I think, what do we call them? The jelly jars, right? So when it comes to the jars you're using to preserve these, they're generally made in smaller servings, you know, so it's nice to be able to control how much you're eating, meaning like you don't have like a quart open of jelly or jam. Also makes great treats for, you know, to give to your neighbors, to give to your family, you know, the holidays. I know that they're in holiday baskets that you guys give.
Yeah.
You know,
why are you talking down to me?
What?
We don't use jelly jars. We use the big jars.
Do you? I guess peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day. Yeah.
Well, so as a matter of fact, we actually don't use the jelly jars at all. We use the pint jars for our jams, and then I guess it's the half pint, you know, the short ones. We use those for our pepper jams and stuff like that, like our hot pepper jams. We'll use that as well because you don't want to have a whole bunch of that opened up laying around. Yeah. So we don't even use the jam jars at all. And I've always looked at them and been like, you know what, I should try and use these, but I don't. So, I mean, I think this is a good way. And I think for a lot of people, this is a good introduction point into canning. Wouldn't you say?
No, I disagree.
You disagree? That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. I know a guy.
I saw it in your face. I saw it in your face. You're like, yeah.
It was disappointment.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay.
I mean, but again, that's okay. I do think that it's kind of like it's a part of baking. You know, baking is always a bit more difficult than cooking for many, right? And so that's the reason why I say, maybe not. You know, like, does it set? I think that's probably the biggest thing with jellies and jams. Like, did it set? Yeah. Right? Did you follow the instructions correctly? I do think if I want to go back to something that you'll continue to disagree with me on. So this is a trick, especially being new to preserving in batches and things. I tend to give people that have only tried, like if I'm giving something to someone for a first time, I tend to give them a smaller serving, and it's kind of like, oh, if they really like it, then they'll mention it to me. Yeah. And then I know, versus giving them, you know, a big jar of a thing that, you know, may go to waste. So that's just a trick that I have and that I use. And if my friend that's listening, I gave her some salsa yesterday. That's why I gave you that one jar, because I need to make sure that you really loved it.
She's going to be like, I love it, give me more.
It's your recipe, so yeah. Thanks again for that.
And I think the big thing, too, is for us, it's like at Christmas time we give it out. And I think as we get older, we get more accepting of stuff like that. You know, when I was younger and somebody gave me a jar of jam, I'd be like...
It's the equivalent of like getting socks.
Yeah. But now it's like, you know, we give them to our family and they thoroughly enjoy it because it's a totally different treat. You know, and you can get creative with your recipes. The ball canning cookbooks. I have the second volume and Miss Batavia has the first volume. And the first volume has your basic standard recipes, is what I crave. And the second volume, and there's more volumes to it, but the second volume has like a lot of different flavors and recipes and combinations. You can put like adding herbs and rosemaries and lemons and stuff like that. So, you know, you can get creative with it too, and you can truly make something unique that, you know, you never. Now the difference is, like last year I made blueberry lemon jam. And
I knew you were going to say that. I could actually taste it as when you mentioned lemons.
I made 25 jars of it. And we still have a couple left. And my wife's this year, when we went to make, she's like, I don't want that crap this year. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't bad. I didn't mind it at all, but she wanted something sweet. So it's just something to notice.
So that was a little bit tart.
Yeah, because this isn't really something that you can necessarily make small batches of. It gets, when you start doing the combination of pectin and sugar, it gets very complicated to kind of like, you know,
half the recipe.
Not even half, like quarter it or, you know, make one jar or something. So, I mean, I have a friend, I was talking to him. He doesn't even garden, I don't think, but he lived in Florida and his neighbor had a bunch of fruit trees. And every time I called him for like 2 months, I was, what are you doing? So I'm making jam. I'm like, why the hell are you always making jam? Like every day. And he's like, man, it's relaxing. He's like, I just like it. Man, he had so much jam. Dude, it was crazy.
Yeah. That makes me happy.
So, and I want to say this too. Of all of these things, I really find the history behind this stuff interesting too. It's it fascinates me that, you know, like Greece started with honey and using dried fruits and stuff like that. Like, it's very interesting to me, like how these things kind of came about, because you can kind of see the uses for it in the future. Now, what I would really like to know, and maybe I should do some more research, is how they used all of these things in their cooking in their daily life afterwards. You know, did you just eat a handful of jam?
In our You Should Grow series, there's always a tidbit of like, 2,000 years ago, this is what this originally was used for. And for these episodes, I'm really curious about the evolution. So we're sharing bits about kind of where it began, but we know in a lot of cases where it began is not quite where we are or how we manage it today. And so I'm just curious about the evolution of some of these preserving methods.
Yes. And how
I've made a note for myself to look into that.
How will they end up in the future? I know how one way is. In Soylent Green, she was eating a spoonful of jam and it was $500 a jar. Just saying.
Every time you say it, it's more and more expensive. That was the mind blown for the people that are watching the video. That's what that was. Yeah, man. Shh. All right, the next mini series is going to be our predictions for.
Yeah, don't hold your breath on that one, but we'll see. All right, everybody, support us if you'd like. But more importantly, go to the grocery store and get some extra stuff and make some jam. Seriously, try it out and get creative with the fruits. And until next time,
make some jelly, if not jam.
Ooh.
And then see ya.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Backyard Gardens podcast.
If you like what we're doing and you want to continue to support the podcast, head over to our Patreon page to sign up.
You can also make a one-time donation using PayPal. Both of these links are in the description.
With your support, we can continue growing and helping others in their gardens. See ya.
If you guys want some Backyard Gardens gear,
go to the link below and check out our t-shirts, mugs, pint glasses, and other gear.
All purchases go towards helping to support the show, so thank you so much in advance, and we hope you enjoy. We want everybody to have a garden, and we're going to give you a chance to win free seeds every month.
Head over to backyardgardenstv.com and enter your email address to be entered in all of our giveaways.
Good luck!
We want you to be a part of our gardening community. DM us a picture of your garden at Backyard Gardens TV on Instagram, and we will share it with our listeners.